All right, let's jump into the next one because I know there's a lot of questions. All right, Shelby. My dog has a chicken allergy, I believe. She goes back and forth between solid and loose stool, and I think she has a yeast issue. She also goes back and forth with a noisy stomach. I have her on raw hypoallergenic diet and dehydrated. I have a suspicion that she may have IBS. She definitely has inflammation. I'm at a loss as what to do. Any ideas? I'm now looking at a holistic veterinarian. All right, great, Shelby. This is, this is a frustrating thing, and I can feel the frustration in that, because a lot of other pet parents, and probably quite a few here, are going through a similar situation. And this is where there's a lot of diagnostic tests that we can do. And one of our amazing speakers that's coming up is Dr. Jean Dodds, and she's going to be talking about a NutriScan test. And when we look at our pets, and I don't know the history with like what foods they were on, the transition period, but a lot of times pet parents will say, my pet's allergic to chicken, and they're still feeding a processed food diet. Now, here's the thing. Chicken in a kibble food or a processed food, so it's heated at a high temperature, so it's cooked at a really high temperature, it's going to change the way that that protein is shown to the body versus, say, for me to go to the store and buy chicken and cook it, very different, or to feed raw chicken. And research studies have actually shown that pets that have a chicken sensitivity from a dry food actually don't respond negatively to a raw food chicken. But what can make the process easier rather than guessing is doing that NutriScan food sensitivity test. And I have a lot of free resources on my YouTube channel. So Dr. Katie Woodley, the natural pet doctor, an entire series on allergies. What is an allergy? What is a food sensitivity? What is the difference? How to test? What do those symptoms mean? So definitely check that out too. But essentially, a lot of people and a lot of veterinarians assume that a food allergy is the same as a food sensitivity. And it's not. The body is being stimulated very differently. And so with a food sensitivity, which is much more common, that can occur with what we call leaky gut syndrome. And Dr. Barbara talked a lot about leaky gut. So make sure if you haven't checked out her talk from today, go back and watch that, because I would say probably 99% of people and pets actually have leaky gut. And so what happens is we're being constantly bombarded by toxins in the food, glyphosate, so that's like Roundup, pesticides, heavy metals, things in the water. We're putting topical flea and tick repellents on our pets, and it's causing inflammation in the GI lining. And that GI lining is very sensitive. It is one cell thick, and it's formed tight junctions. So we call them enterocytes, and they should be nice and tight. And what happens when they're exposed to things that cause inflammation, those tight junctions start separating, and you start seeing those little spaces. And now all of a sudden what happens is your dog eats its meal. And even if you're feeding really good quality food, what happens is that food, bacteria, toxins will pass through that leaky gut, through those little holes, into the bloodstream. And then the body goes, whoa, that's abnormal, and it mounts an immune response. And we see things like it causes inflammation. We see skin inflammation, itchy paws, itchy ears. We can see anal gland issues, recurring anal gland problems. We can see, a gurgly stomach, like you mentioned. And these are all things that where Shelby, they all play a part. And so we know that your dog has a leaky gut based on what you're saying, back and forth between solid and loose stools, possibly a yeast issue. And this is where that NutriScan test will check, and it'll look at certain immunoglobulins. So that's part of the immune system. And if certain IgG immunoglobulins are elevated, that means that your pet is responding adversely to it. They're sensitive to it. Now, food sensitivities change all the time. So you'll see people say it's not worth testing. But if you're in a condition where you're currently at, Shelby, it can speed up the process, because the alternative is an 8-week food trial where we're using one single protein, very limited diet. And it sounds like you're already doing that potentially. And so this will tell you like, oh, my pet's sensitive to turkey. And you can look at the ingredients, or you can look at the foods that you're feeding if you're doing like a homemade meal, and you can avoid that. And you can remove that. And then we can use things. So I always talk about like remove, restore, repair. And whenever we're talking about gut health, so we remove the things that are causing a problem. That's where NutriScan's really powerful. Your fur tissue test also could be very powerful, because I have a feeling, Shelby, your dog might be low in magnesium. Magnesium is essential. And a lot of times what we find is when it's low, we find that pets alternate between constipation and loose stool. So then what we've done now is we've actually looked at the cellular health rather than guessing, and we can supplement to fill in those gaps and restore homeostasis. And then we can look at the NutriScan test from HemoPet, and we can actually see like, okay, let's avoid this food. Let's remove maybe heavy toxins, supplement for those vitamins and minerals. And now what we do is we start restoring with those prebiotics and probiotics, digestive enzymes to help break down the food, give the gut, give the pancreas a break, and we repair the gut lining using supplements like aloe, licorice root, using a lot of the things we talked about last night when we had our panel with Dr. Nick Thompson, Dr. Katie Congas, and Dr. Susan Bohr, where we gave our top tips for diarrhea, where we can use slippery elm, we can use marshmallow root, we can use licorice root, we can use things to help calm down that inflamed gut lining. And then while we're avoiding the things that were causing the irritation, it allows the gut to heal. So I find for a lot of dogs that have irritable bowel syndrome, they tend to be anxious. We tend to find that they are off with their cellular health. The vitamins and minerals are off. And we actually call calcium and magnesium the tranquilizing minerals, because we have this gut brain axis. And when gut health is off, we see anxiety. But when we actually realize that calcium and magnesium are low and we supplement it, a lot of times anxiety melts away. That is how powerful it is. Imagine like removing all of this back and forth, back to the vet clinic, buying all the supplements, trying all the different foods. And all of a sudden, just because we supplemented the things that were off in the body and regained homeostasis, now your pet is fixed. So I definitely take a look at both of those tests. Shelby, partner with a holistic veterinarian. A lot of us do telehealth consultations for pet parents across the globe. You can go to the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association, so ahvma.org. I'll have Mitch type that into the chat box so that every pet parent has that resource, because there's a lot of us that do telehealth because there are not enough of us holistic vets out there to help all the pet parents that need our help. So definitely check out some of those resources. I hope that helps.